Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. The grand hall buzzed with excitement as I stepped through the ornate double doors, my wife Vanessa on my arm. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a warm glow on the sea of Dallas elites gathered to celebrate Sam and Emily's engagement. A live band played soft jazz, providing the perfect backdrop for the clinking of champagne glasses and bursts of laughter. Nathan, Vanessa, you made it. Sam's booming voice cut through the chatter as he strode toward us, arms outstretched. I grinned, clasping his hand in a firm shake before pulling him into a quick hug. Wouldn't miss it for the world, buddy. Congratulations again. Vanessa leaned in, air kissing Sam's cheeks. The place looks amazing, Sam. Emily must be thrilled. Speaking of, where is the blushing bride-to-be? I asked, scanning the crowd. Sam chuckled. Oh, you know Emily. She's probably fussing over some detail or another. I swear, this woman's going to plan us into an early grave. Better get used to it, I teased. This is just the beginning. As we laughed, I felt Vanessa's hand slip from my arm. I'm going to freshen up, she murmured, already turning away. Be right back, boys. I watched her weave through the crowd, her emerald green dress catching the light. For a moment, I marveled at how effortlessly she commanded attention, even in a room full of Dallas's finest. Then I turned back to Sam, determined to focus on my best friend's big night. So, how are you holding up? I asked, snagging 2 flutes of champagne from a passing waiter and handing one to Sam. Pre-wedding jitters kicking in yet? Sam took a long sip before answering. Honestly, I'm cool as a cucumber. Emily's the one I'm worried about. She's been a bundle of nerves all week. I clapped him on the shoulder. She'll be fine. You two are perfect for each other. I've never seen you happier, man. Thanks, Nate. That means a lot coming from you. Sam's eyes softened. You know, seeing you and Vanessa, it gives me hope. 10 years strong and still going. That's what I want for me and Emily. I forced a smile, pushing down the twinge of unease his words provoked. You'll have that and more, Sam. Trust me. We spent the next half hour catching up, reminiscing about our college days and discussing Sam's plans for the future. I was in the middle of recounting a particularly embarrassing story from our sophomore year when I noticed Jake, one of the event's security guards, approaching us with a grim expression. Mr. Bennett, Jake said in a low voice, barely audible over the music. We have a situation. You need to see this. Sam's brow furrowed. What's going on? Jake glanced around nervously. It's sensitive, sir. You should come with me. And, he hesitated, looking at me, you might want to bring Mr. Hunter as well. A cold feeling settled in my gut as Sam and I exchanged worried glances. Lead the way, I said, setting down my champagne flute. Jake led us through a maze of corridors, away from the main hall. The sounds of the party faded, replaced by the echo of our footsteps on polished marble. Finally, we reached a small room filled with monitors and security equipment. What am I looking at, Jake? Sam demanded as we crowded around the screens. Jake pointed to one of the monitors. This feed is from a secluded room off the East Wing. We noticed some unusual activity. As I leaned in to get a better look, my world came crashing down around me. There, in vivid high definition, was my wife. And she wasn't alone. Vanessa stood with her back against the wall, her green dress hiked up to her thighs. A man I didn't recognize had his hands on her waist, his face buried in her neck. As I watched, frozen in disbelief, Vanessa threw her head back and laughed, clearly enjoying herself. I can't believe this, Sam growled, his face a mask of fury. At my engagement party? Who the hell is that guy? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was racing, piecing together 1,000 little moments that suddenly made horrifying sense. The late nights at work, the mysterious text messages, the gradual emotional distance that had been growing between us for months. Nathan? Sam's voice seemed to come from far away. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath, forcing my racing thoughts to slow. When I spoke, my voice was cold and steady. Let me handle it. Without waiting for a response, I turned and strode out of the security room. My footsteps echoed in the empty hallway as I made my way to the East Wing. each step bringing me closer to the moment that would change everything. As I approached the door to the secluded room, I could hear muffled laughter and hushed voices. My hand hesitated on the doorknob for just a moment before I steeled myself and quietly pushed it open. The scene before me was even worse in person. Vanessa had her arms draped around the man's neck, her lipstick smeared and her hair disheveled. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't even notice my entrance. "Quick," Vanessa giggled, her words slightly slurred. "This is the last time in public." The man, whose face I could now see clearly, grinned back at her. "You're crazy, Vanessa." "Dumbass," I said calmly, causing them both to whirl around in shock. "Look above in the corner." Vanessa's eyes widened as she followed my gaze to the security camera mounted in the ceiling. Her jaw dropped, and all the color drained from her face. "Nathan," she gasped. It's not what it looks like." The man tried to speak, but I didn't give him the chance. My fist connected with his jaw before he could get a word out, sending him sprawling to the floor. "Nathan, please," Vanessa pleaded, reaching for me. "I can explain." I stepped back, my voice ice cold. "Save it. We're done." Without another word, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving Vanessa and her lover in stunned silence. My mind was eerily calm as I made my way through the party, ignoring the curious glances and cheerful greetings from oblivious guests. I needed air. I needed space. Most of all, I needed to start planning my next move. As I burst through the entrance of the venue into the cool night air, I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Ben," I said as soon as the line connected. "It's Nathan. Start the paperwork. I'm divorcing Vanessa." There was a pause on the other end. "On what grounds?" my lawyer asked, his voice cautious. "Adultery," I replied, my grip tightening on the phone. "We're in Texas, and we have a prenuptial agreement." "I see," Ben said slowly. "Nathan, are you sure about this? Do you have proof?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I've got proof all right. Security footage from Sam's engagement party. Nice and clear, time-stamped, the works." "Jesus," Ben muttered. "Okay, I'll start drawing up the papers first thing in the morning. In the meantime, don't confront her again. Don't move out of the house. And for God's sake, don't do anything stupid." "Don't worry," I assured him, a cold smile spreading across my face. "I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to do everything by the book. And when I'm done, Vanessa won't know what hit her." As I ended the call, I stared out at the glittering Dallas skyline. My world had been shattered in the span of an evening, but I was already piecing together a new plan. Vanessa had made her choice, and now she would face the consequences. This wasn't just about divorce. This was about justice. This was about revenge. And I was just getting started. I stood in the parking lot, the cool night air doing little to calm the storm raging inside me. My phone felt heavy in my hand, Ben's words echoing in my mind. "Don't do anything stupid," he'd said. But standing still felt impossible. The venue doors burst open behind me, and I turned to see Vanessa stumbling out, her hair wild and her makeup smeared. Her lover, who I now recognized as Carter Blake from the tech startup across town, followed close behind, rubbing his jaw where I'd struck him. "Nathan," Vanessa called out, her voice shrill with panic. "Please wait. We need to talk about this." I barked out a laugh, harsh and humorless. "Talk? Now you want to talk? Funny, you didn't seem interested in talking when you were wrapped around him in there." Carter stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. "Look, man, this is all just a big misunderstanding. Is it?" I advanced on him, my voice dangerously low. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty damn clear. You were all over my wife in a room you thought was private. So please, enlighten me. What am I misunderstanding?" Vanessa grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Nathan, please. It was a mistake. I've had too much to drink, and things just got out of hand." I shook her off, my eyes never leaving Carter. "How long?" "What?" Carter stammered, taking a step back. "How long has this been going on?" I clarified, my patience wearing thin. Vanessa jumped in, her words tumbling out in a rush. "It doesn't matter. It was nothing, Nathan. A moment of weakness. It won't happen again, I swear. I turned to her, my gaze cold. You're right about one thing. It won't happen again. Because we're done, Vanessa. I've already called my lawyer. Her face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. No, Nathan, you can't mean that. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. Take some time? Time. I scoffed. You want time? How much time have you already spent sneaking around behind my back? How many late nights at the office were actually spent with him? Carter cleared his throat, attempting to regain some composure. Listen, Nathan, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But let's be rational about this. There's no need to make any hasty decisions. I rounded on him, my fury finding a new target. Rational? You want to talk about being rational? Was it rational to risk everything for a quick thrill? Was it rational to betray your own wife? Carter blanched. How did you know I was married? I make it my business to know things, Carter. I spat, especially about the people in my wife's life. Tell me, does Amanda know where you are tonight? Leave Amanda out of this, Carter growled, a flicker of fear crossing his face. Vanessa stepped between us, her hands on my chest. Nathan, please. This is between us. Carter has nothing to do with our marriage. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I think he has everything to do with it now. You made sure of that when you invited him into our lives. It was a mistake, Vanessa cried, her mascara running in black streaks down her face. A stupid, drunken mistake that will never happen again. Can't you forgive me? For a moment, I almost wavered. The sight of her tears, the familiar scent of her perfume. It brought back a flood of memories. 10 years of marriage, of building a life together. Could I really throw it all away? But then I remembered the security footage. The way she laughed in Carter's arms, carefree and uninhibited. The whispered promise of next time. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a betrayal that had been going on for God knows how long. Forgive you? I said quietly, stepping back from her touch. I don't even know who you are anymore, Vanessa. The woman I married would never have done this. People change, Nathan, she pleaded. We've both changed, but that doesn't mean we can't find our way back to each other. I shook my head, a sad smile on my face. You're right. We have changed. And now it's time for me to change our situation. I turned to Carter, who had been watching our exchange with growing unease. You should go home to your wife, Carter. I'm sure she's wondering where you are. Carter's eyes darted between Vanessa and me. Vanessa, I'm sorry. I should go. Carter, wait. Vanessa called as he hurried towards his car. But he didn't look back, leaving her alone to face the consequences of their actions. As the sound of Carter's engine faded into the night, Vanessa turned back to me, her eyes desperate. What happens now? I straightened my tie, smoothing out the wrinkles from our confrontation. Now, I go back inside and salvage what's left of my best friend's engagement party. You can find your own way home. You're leaving me here? She gasped, incredulous. Consider it the first of many changes in our relationship, I replied coolly. I suggest you use this time to start packing your things. I want you out of the house by tomorrow night. Vanessa's face crumpled. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged, already turning back towards the venue. That's not my problem anymore. You made your choice, Vanessa. Now you get to live with it. As I walked away, I heard her sob behind me. Part of me wanted to turn back, to take her in my arms and pretend this nightmare had never happened. But I kept moving forward, each step taking me further from the life I thought I had and closer to the uncertain future ahead. Inside, the party was still in full swing. No one seemed to have noticed the drama unfolding in the parking lot. I made my way to the bar, ordering a double Scotch neat. Everything okay? Sam's voice came from behind me. I turned to see him watching me with concern, Jake the security guard hovering nearby. I forced a smile. It will be. Eventually. Sam nodded, understanding in his eyes. What can I do? I downed my scotch in one gulp, savoring the burn. Right now? You can introduce me to your single friends. I have a feeling I'm going to need some new company in the coming months. Sam clapped me on the shoulder, a mix of sympathy and support in his gesture. Consider it done, buddy. But first, another drink. On me. As Sam signaled the bartender, I let my gaze wander over the crowded room. Everywhere I looked, I saw happy couples, blissfully unaware of how quickly everything could change. I'd been one of them just hours ago. Now, I was standing on the precipice of a new chapter in my life. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. And deep down, beneath the pain and betrayal, a part of me was ready for whatever came next. Let Vanessa have her lover. Let her face the consequences of her actions. I had a new path to forge, and I intended to walk it with my head held high. The night was still young, and so was I. It was time to start living on my own terms. The cool night air hit me like a slap to the face as I stepped out of Sam's engagement party. The festivities inside felt like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the harsh reality of what I'd discovered. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Benjamin Crane. My lawyer. My friend. The man who was about to help me dismantle the life I'd spent a decade building. I hit the call button, bringing the phone to my ear as I paced the parking lot. Each ring felt like an eternity until finally, I heard Ben's gruff voice on the other end. Nathan? It's late. What's going on? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Ben, it's Nathan. I need you to start the paperwork. I'm divorcing Vanessa. There was a pause on the other end, followed by the rustle of sheets. I'd clearly woken him up. Nathan, slow down. What happened? She cheated on me, Ben. I caught her red-handed at Sam's engagement party. Jesus, Ben muttered. I heard more rustling, then the click of a lamp. Okay, I'm up. Talk to me. What exactly did you see? I clenched my jaw. The image of Vanessa and Carter burned into my mind. Security footage. Her and some guy named Carter Blake. They were intimate. In a room they thought was private. And you're sure about this? There's no chance of a misunderstanding? No misunderstanding, I said firmly. I confronted them both. It's been going on for a while, from what I could gather. Ben sighed heavily. All right. On what grounds do you want to file? Adultery, I replied without hesitation. We're in Texas, and we have a prenuptial agreement. I want to nail this thing shut, Ben. No wiggle room. Got it, Ben said, his voice taking on the professional tone I knew well. I'll start drawing up the papers first thing in the morning. But Nathan, listen to me carefully. Don't do anything rash tonight. Don't move out of the house. Don't touch any joint accounts, and for God's sake, don't confront her again without me present. Understand? I nodded, then remembered he couldn't see me. Yeah, I got it. What's my next move? For now, go home. Act normal. Don't tip your hand. We want to catch her off guard when we serve the papers. It'll give us an advantage in negotiations. I laughed bitterly. Act normal? How the hell am I supposed to do that, Ben? I know it's hard, he said, his voice softening. But trust me, it's the smart play. Can you do that? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Yeah, I can do that. Good man. Now, get some sleep if you can. Come to my office first thing tomorrow, and we'll start strategizing. As I ended the call, I leaned against my car, the cool metal grounding me. The world felt off-kilter, like I'd stepped into some twisted alternate reality. Just hours ago, I'd been happily married. Now, I was plotting divorce strategies in a darkened parking lot. I glanced back at the venue, the sounds of the party still audible even from here. Vanessa was in there somewhere, probably trying to salvage what was left of her dignity. Part of me wanted to storm back in, to confront her again, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. But Ben's words echoed in my mind. Don't do anything rash. Act normal. With a heavy sigh, I unlocked my car and slid into the driver's seat. The leather interior, once a symbol of our shared success, now felt cold and impersonal. I started the engine, the familiar purr doing little to comfort me. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. I looked older somehow, the lines around my eyes deeper, my expression harder. In the span of a few hours, I'd become a different man. The streets of Dallas flew by as I drove, my mind racing faster than the car. What would tomorrow bring? How would I face Vanessa across the breakfast table, knowing what I knew? How long could I keep up this charade of normalcy? But beneath the turmoil, a cold determination was taking root. Vanessa had made her choice. She'd gambled with our marriage and lost. Now, it was my turn to play the game. As I pulled into our driveway, I steeled myself for what lay ahead. The next few weeks would be a battle, but I was ready for it. Vanessa had no idea what was coming. Let her think she'd gotten away with it. Let her believe she could have her cake and eat it too. I would bide my time, gather my evidence, and when the moment was right, I would strike. This was no longer just about ending a marriage. This was about justice, about consequences. This was war, and I intended to win. The morning sun streamed through the blinds of my home office, but I'd been awake for hours. Sleep had become a luxury I could no longer afford. Not when there was so much to do. I stared at the USB drive on my desk, containing the damning footage of Vanessa and Carter. My finger hovered over the send button on my laptop. One click, and their world would come crashing down. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Sam. "Nathan, how are you holding up?" His voice was thick with concern. "I'm fine, Sam. Just processing. Look, I know you probably don't want to talk about it, but I'm here if you need me." I sighed. "Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. How's Emily taking the news?" Sam chuckled humorlessly. "She's livid. Keeps saying she wants to give Vanessa a piece of her mind." "Tell her to hold off on that," I said quickly. "I've got a plan in motion." There was a pause on the other end. "A plan? Nathan, what are you up to?" I leaned back in my chair. "Let's just say I'm not taking this lying down. Vanessa and Carter are about to learn some hard lessons about consequences. Nathan," Sam's voice took on a warning tone, "don't do anything you'll regret." "Regret?" I laughed bitterly. "The only thing I regret is not seeing this sooner." "Don't worry, Sam. Everything I'm doing is perfectly legal." "If you say so," he replied, unconvinced. "Just be careful, all right?" After ending the call, I turned back to my laptop. It was time. I pulled up my contact list, singling out Vanessa's closest friends and family members. With a deep breath, I hit send, attaching the video file and a brief explanation. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing incessantly. I ignored it, focusing instead on one particular number. I dialed, my heart pounding. "Hello?" A woman's voice answered, cautious and unfamiliar. "Amanda Blake?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yes, who is this?" I cleared my throat. "Amanda, this is Nathan Hunter, Vanessa's husband. I'm afraid I have some news you need to hear." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Oh God, what is it? Is Vanessa okay?" "Physically, she's fine," I said carefully, "but I'm afraid I've uncovered something that affects both of us. I've sent you an email. I think you should take a look at it." I heard the clatter of keys, then silence. Agonizing seconds ticked by. Finally, Amanda's voice came back, choked with emotion. "Nathan, I just saw the footage. How could they?" I closed my eyes, steadying myself. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I thought it was best you know the truth." "How long?" she demanded. "How long has this been going on?" "I'm not sure," I admitted, "but from what I've gathered, it's been a while." Amanda's sobs echoed through the phone. "I can't believe Carter would do this. We have a family, for God's sake." "I know," I said softly, "and I'm truly sorry. If there's anything I can do—" "No," she cut me off, her voice suddenly hard. "No, you've done enough. Thank you for telling me, Nathan. I need to go now." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, a mix of emotions swirling in my chest. Part of me felt guilty for the pain I just caused Amanda, but a larger part felt vindicated. The truth was out now. There was no going back. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Vanessa. "You son of a bitch!" she screamed as soon as I picked up. "How dare you? Do you have any idea what you've done?" I laughed coldly. "Oh, I know exactly what I've done, Vanessa. I've exposed the truth. How's it feel to have your dirty laundry aired for everyone to see?" "You've ruined everything," she shrieked. "My friends, my family. They all hate me now." "That's the funny thing about actions, Vanessa," I replied calmly. "They have consequences. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat." I'll make you pay for this, she hissed. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. No, Vanessa, you have no idea what I'm capable of. This is just the beginning. By the time I'm done, you'll wish all you'd lost were some fair-weather friends. I hung up before she could respond, a grim satisfaction settling over me. The first domino had fallen. Now it was time for the next phase of my plan. I pulled up another contact on my phone. Alex? It's Nathan Hunter. I've got a job for you. I need everything you can dig up on Carter Blake. And I mean everything. As I ended the call, I glanced at the framed photo on my desk. It was from our wedding day, Vanessa and I beaming at the camera, our whole lives ahead of us. With a swift motion, I knocked it face down. That life was over. A new chapter was beginning. And this time, I was writing the rules. The sleek glass doors of Vanessa's boutique project office loomed before me, a testament to the dreams she'd nurtured for years. Dreams I was about to shatter. I straightened my tie and walked in, ignoring the receptionist's startled look. "Mr. Hunter," she exclaimed, "we weren't expecting you. Mrs. Hunter is in a meeting, but I can." I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "That won't be necessary. I know my way around." Without waiting for a response, I strode down the hallway, my footsteps echoing ominously. I could hear Vanessa's voice drifting from the conference room, animated and excited as she discussed her plans. I pushed open the door, interrupting mid-sentence. "Hello, Vanessa. Don't let me stop you. Please, continue." The room fell silent. Vanessa's face paled, while her business partners shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Nathan," Vanessa said, her voice strained, "what are you doing here?" I smiled coldly, taking a seat at the head of the table. "Oh, I just thought I'd drop by. See how my investment is coming along." One of the partners, a portly man named George, cleared his throat. "Mr. Hunter, with all due respect, this is a closed meeting." I turned to him, my gaze sharp. "Is it? Last I checked, I was still the primary investor in this little venture. Or has that changed, Vanessa?" Vanessa's jaw clenched. "Of course not. But Nathan, this really isn't the time." "On the contrary," I interrupted, "I think this is the perfect time. In fact, I have some news that affects everyone here." The room tensed. I could feel all eyes on me as I pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. "What's this?" Vanessa asked, reaching for it. I placed my hand on the folder, stopping her. "This, my dear, is the end of your dream." Vanessa's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" I opened the folder, spreading out various documents. "I've been busy these past few days, making some calls, pulling some strings. And wouldn't you know it, there seemed to be some irregularities with your permits." George leaned forward, frowning. "Irregularities? But we've been through all the proper channels." "Have you?" I asked innocently. "Because according to these documents, there are several violations. Safety codes, zoning laws. It's all very complicated. And unfortunately, it means this project is effectively dead in the water." Vanessa shot to her feet. "You can't do this." I stood as well, matching her glare. "I think you'll find I can. And I have." Another partner, Sarah, spoke up. "Mr. Hunter, surely we can work something out. This project means everything to Vanessa." I turned to her, my voice cold. "Does it? Tell me, Sarah, did Vanessa ever mention how she likes to spend her free time? Or should I send you the video?" Vanessa gasped. "Nathan, don't you dare." I ignored her, addressing the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Not only is this project no longer viable, but I'm also withdrawing all of my funding. Effective immediately." The room erupted into chaos. Partners shouting, papers flying, Vanessa screaming my name. But I remained calm, gathering my things. As I reached the door, Vanessa grabbed my arm. "Why are you doing this?" she hissed. "Is this your revenge?" I looked her in the eye, my voice low. "Revenge? No, Vanessa. This is justice. You made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences." I shook off her grip and walked out, leaving the sounds of her crumbling dreams behind me. In the lobby, I paused at the receptionist's desk. I'd start looking for a new job if I were you, I advised. This place won't be open much longer. Outside, I took a deep breath of the crisp morning air. One more piece had fallen into place. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. I pulled out my phone, dialing a familiar number. Ben? It's Nathan. I need you to draw up some papers. We're about to acquire a tech company. As I ended the call, a text came through from Alex, my private investigator. Got the dirt on Carter Blake. You're going to want to see this. I smiled grimly. The next phase was about to begin, and Carter Blake had no idea what was coming for him. The elevator dinged as it reached the top floor of the nondescript office building. I straightened my tie, put on my most charming smile, and stepped out into the reception area of Blake Technologies. The receptionist looked up, her eyes widening slightly. "Can I help you, sir?" "Nathan Hunter," I said smoothly. "I have an appointment with Paul Richardson." She tapped at her computer, then nodded. "Of course, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Richardson is expecting you. Right this way." As we walked down the hallway, I caught sight of a familiar face. Carter Blake, looking haggard and stressed, was hunched over his desk in a cramped cubicle. He didn't notice me as I passed. Good. Let him stew in his own misery for a while longer. Paul Richardson's office was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Dallas. The man himself stood as I entered, extending his hand. "Mr. Hunter," he greeted warmly. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person." I shook his hand firmly. "Likewise, Mr. Richardson. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting on such short notice." We settled into our seats, and Paul leaned forward, his expression curious. "So, Mr. Hunter, what can Blake Technologies do for you?" I smiled, opening my briefcase. "Actually, Paul, I'm here to discuss what I can do for Blake Technologies." His eyebrows rose. "Oh, I'm intrigued." I laid out a series of documents on his desk. "I'll cut to the chase. I want to buy your company." Paul's jaw dropped. I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me correctly," I said calmly. "I'm prepared to make a very generous offer, well above market value." Paul laughed nervously. "Mr. Hunter, I appreciate the offer, but Blake Technologies isn't for sale. We're doing quite well, actually." I leaned back, my smile never wavering. "Are you?" "Because my sources tell me you're on the verge of losing your biggest client. And without them, well, let's just say the future doesn't look so bright." The color drained from Paul's face. "How did you? Who told you that?" I waved my hand dismissively. "That's not important. What's important is that I'm offering you a lifeline, Paul. A chance to walk away from all this with a hefty profit in your pocket." Paul's eyes darted to the documents, then back to me. "Why? Why us? Why now?" I leaned forward, my voice low and intense. "Because I see potential here, Paul. Potential that's being wasted. With the right leadership, the right vision, this company could be something truly special." He swallowed hard. "And you think you're that leader?" "I know I am," I said confidently. "But don't take my word for it. Look at the offer. Take some time to think it over. But don't take too long. This opportunity has an expiration date." Paul nodded slowly, reaching for the documents with shaking hands. I'll need to discuss this with the board." I stood, buttoning my jacket. "Of course. I'll give you 48 hours. After that, the offer is off the table." As I turned to leave, Paul called out, "Mr. Hunter? If we do this, what happens to our employees?" I paused at the door, a cold smile playing on my lips. "Don't worry, Paul. I have big plans for them, especially Mr. Blake." The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. Phase 1 complete. Now for Phase 2. I made my way to the HR department, where I was greeted by a petite woman with a no-nonsense attitude. "Lisa Martinez?" I asked. She nodded. "That's me. How can I help you, Mr. Hunter?" I supplied. "Nathan Hunter, your new boss." Lisa's eyes widened. "I'm sorry, what?" I smiled, taking a seat across from her desk. "The deal isn't quite finalized yet, but it will be soon. And when it is, I'm going to need your help with a special project." Lisa leaned back, her expression wary. "What kind of project?" I pulled out a file and slid it across her desk. Carter Blake. I want you to make his life a living hell. Lisa's eyes narrowed as she flipped through the file. Mr. Hunter, I'm not sure I understand. This looks like, well, frankly, it looks like harassment. I shook my head. Not harassment, Lisa. Performance improvement. Mr. Blake has been underperforming lately. We're going to give him the opportunity to rise to the challenge. Or crash and burn trying. Lisa looked uncomfortable. I'm not sure this is legal. I cut her off. I assure you, it's all above board. We're simply going to hold Mr. Blake to the highest standards. Increase his workload, tighten his deadlines, raise our expectations. If he can handle it, great. If not, well, that's on him. Lisa hesitated, clearly torn. And if I refuse to be part of this? I smiled coldly. Then I'm afraid your position in the new company structure might be reevaluated. She swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? I leaned forward, outlining my plan. By the time I was done, Lisa's face was pale, but she nodded in agreement. As I left the HR department, I caught sight of Carter again. He was on the phone, his voice raised in frustration. Amanda, please, he was saying. Just let me explain. Hello? Amanda? He slammed the phone down, burying his face in his hands. I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Carter Blake's world was crumbling around him, and he didn't even know I was the architect of his destruction. As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed. It was Paul Richardson. Mr. Hunter, his voice was shaky. We've decided to accept your offer. I grinned. Excellent decision, Paul. Have your lawyers draw up the paperwork. I'll be in touch. As the elevator descended, I felt a surge of triumph. The pieces were falling into place. Vanessa's dream was in shambles. Carter's career was about to go up in flames, and I was just getting started. The doors opened, and I stepped out into the bright Texas sun. It was a beautiful day for revenge. The office bustled with activity as I strode through the doors of Blake Technologies, now Hunter Innovations. Employees scurried out of my way, their eyes lowered. Good. Fear was a powerful motivator. I made my way to Lisa Martinez's office, knocking briefly before entering. Mr. Hunter, Lisa greeted, her voice tight. What can I do for you? I settled into the chair across from her desk. How's our friend Mr. Blake doing? Lisa shuffled through some papers. Not well, sir. He's missed several deadlines, and his work quality has plummeted. The stress is clearly getting to him. I leaned forward, a predatory smile on my face. Excellent. And how's he handling the increased workload? He's struggling, Lisa admitted. He's been working late every night, but he can't keep up. I've had to issue several formal warnings. Good. I nodded. And has he tried to quit? Lisa shook her head. No, sir. He knows he can't due to the contract. But... She hesitated. But what? I pressed. He's been calling in sick more often. I think he's on the verge of a breakdown. I stood, straightening my tie. Perfect. Keep pushing him, Lisa. I want him to break. As I turned to leave, Lisa called out. Mr. Hunter? Is this really necessary? I paused at the door, my voice cold. Necessary? No. Satisfying? Absolutely. I made my way to Paul Richardson's old office, now mine. As I settled behind the desk, my phone buzzed. It was Alex Mercer, my PI. Alex, I answered. What have you got for me? You're going to love this, boss, Alex chuckled. I've been tailing Carter Blake like you asked. Guess where he's been spending his sick days? I leaned back in my chair. Do tell. At the bottom of a bottle, Alex replied. He's been hitting the bars hard. I've got photos of him stumbling out of dive bars at all hours. And get this, he's been seen with some questionable company, if you catch my drift. A slow smile spread across my face. Interesting. Very interesting. Keep on him, Alex. I want to know every move he makes. You got it, boss. Oh, and one more thing. His wife? She filed for divorce last week. I hung up, a sense of satisfaction washing over me. Everything was falling into place. Weeks passed, and Carter's downward spiral continued. His work became sloppy, his appearance disheveled. The once charming, confident man was now a shell of his former self. Finally, The day I'd been waiting for arrived. Carter didn't show up for work, or the next day, or the day after that. I called Lisa into my office. "Mr. Blake hasn't been to work in 3 days," I said, feigning concern. "Have you heard from him?" Lisa shook her head. "No, sir. He's not answering his phone or emails." I sighed dramatically. "Well, I'm afraid we have no choice. Prepare the termination paperwork and contact our legal team. Mr. Blake has breached his contract." The lawsuit was filed within days. Carter, broke and broken, couldn't even afford a decent lawyer. The court date arrived, and I savored every moment of his defeat. The judge looked down from her bench, her expression stern. "Mr. Blake, you've been absent from work without notice for over a week. You failed to meet numerous deadlines, and your work quality has significantly declined. How do you plead to these charges of breach of contract?" Carter stood, swaying slightly. His suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. "Your Honor, I've been going through a difficult time. My marriage, my health. That's not an excuse for neglecting your contractual obligations, Mr. Blake," the judge interrupted. I stood, my voice calm and reasonable. "Your Honor, Hunter Innovations gave Mr. Blake every opportunity to succeed. We provided resources, support, and numerous warnings. Mr. Blake chose to ignore them all." The judge nodded. "I've reviewed the evidence presented. It's clear that Mr. Blake has indeed breached his contract. The court rules in favor of Mr. Hunter. Mr. Blake is ordered to pay damages in the amount of $500,000. Carter's face crumpled. "I can't. I don't have that kind of money." I approached him, my voice low. "You should have thought of that before you decided to ruin lives, Carter. How does it feel to lose everything?" Carter's eyes widened with sudden understanding. You planned this. All of it." I smiled coldly. "Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" As I walked out of the courtroom, I heard Carter's broken whisper behind me. "I can't believe this." I didn't look back. One down, one to go. The marble halls of the Dallas County Family Courthouse echoed with my footsteps as I made my way to courtroom 3. Today was the day. The final nail in the coffin of my marriage to Vanessa. My lawyer, Ben Crane, met me outside the courtroom doors. "Nathan," he greeted, shaking my hand. "Are you ready for this?" I nodded, straightening my tie. "More than ready, Ben. Let's end this." We entered the courtroom to find Vanessa and her lawyer already seated. Vanessa looked up as we entered, her eyes red-rimmed but defiant. "All rise," the bailiff called out as Judge Harriet Knowles entered. "Be seated," Judge Knowles said, settling into her chair. "We're here today for the divorce proceedings of Nathan Hunter versus Vanessa Hunter. Are both parties present and ready to proceed?" "Yes, Your Honor," Ben and Vanessa's lawyer responded in unison. Judge Knowles nodded. "Very well. Mr. Crane, please present your case." Ben stood, his manner professional and composed. "Your Honor, my client, Mr. Nathan Hunter, is seeking a divorce on the grounds of adultery. We have irrefutable evidence of Mrs. Hunter's infidelity, including video footage and eyewitness accounts. Furthermore, there is a prenuptial agreement in place that clearly outlines the terms of asset division in the event of infidelity." Vanessa's lawyer, a sharp-looking woman named Rachel Torres, jumped to her feet. "Objection, Your Honor. The alleged video was obtained without my client's consent." Judge Knowles turned to Ben. "Mr. Crane?" "Your Honor, the video in question was captured by a security camera in a public venue. There was no expectation of privacy." The judge nodded. "Objection overruled. Continue, Mr. Crane." Ben proceeded to lay out our case, presenting the evidence we'd gathered. I watched Vanessa's face as each piece was revealed, saw the hope drain from her eyes with every damning fact. Finally, it was Vanessa's turn. Rachel Torres stood, her voice passionate. "Your Honor, while my client admits to a lapse in judgment, we contest the validity of the prenuptial agreement. Mrs. Hunter signed under duress, and without full understanding of its terms." I couldn't help but scoff, drawing a sharp look from the judge. "Mr. Hunter," Judge Knowles warned, "control yourself." "My apologies, Your Honor," I said smoothly. The arguments went back and forth, but I could see the writing on the wall. Judge Knowles was not buying Vanessa's story. Finally, After what felt like hours, the judge spoke. I've heard enough. Given the evidence of infidelity and the prenuptial agreement, which I find to be valid and binding, the court awards Mr. Hunter the majority of the assets. Mrs. Hunter will retain her personal belongings and a lump sum of $100,000 as stipulated in the prenup. Vanessa gasped, her face crumpling. This isn't fair, she cried out. I couldn't help the smirk that spread across my face. Fairness is relative, I muttered. Judge Knowles banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. As we stood to leave, Vanessa rushed over to me, her eyes wild. How could you do this to me, Nathan? After everything we've been through? I looked at her coldly. I didn't do this to you, Vanessa. You did this to yourself. You've ruined me, she hissed. I hope you're happy. I leaned in close, my voice low. Happiness? No. But satisfaction? Absolutely. As Vanessa was led away by her lawyer, Ben clapped me on the shoulder. Congratulations, Nathan. It's over. I nodded, a weight lifting from my shoulders. Thanks, Ben, for everything. As we walked out of the courthouse, I took a deep breath of the crisp Dallas air. For the first time in months, I felt truly free. The woman who had betrayed me, who had made a mockery of our vows, was now facing the consequences of her actions. And I was ready to move on to the next chapter of my life. Little did I know, that chapter would be more rewarding than I could have ever imagined. 6 months later, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office, gazing out at the Dallas skyline. The city sprawled before me, a testament to ambition and opportunity. My opportunity. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Come in, I called out. Olivia Parker, my new CFO, entered. She was brilliant, driven, and most importantly, trustworthy. Everything Vanessa wasn't. Nathan, she greeted, a stack of papers in her hand. I've got the quarterly reports you asked for. I turned from the window, gesturing for her to take a seat. Thanks, Olivia. How are we looking? She smiled, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Better than we could have hoped. The acquisition of Blake Technologies, Hunter Innovations has paid off big time. Our profits are up 30% from last quarter. I couldn't help but chuckle. Who would have thought revenge could be so profitable? Olivia's expression turned serious. Nathan, can I ask you something? I nodded, curious. Of course. Do you ever regret it? The way things went down with Vanessa and Carter? I paused, considering her question. Did I regret it? The sleepless nights, the anger, the meticulous planning of my revenge? No, I said finally. I don't regret it. They made their choices, and I made mine. What started as revenge has turned into opportunity. It's time to move forward. Olivia nodded, her expression thoughtful. You've been through a lot, Nathan, but you're stronger for it. I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't experienced in a long time. I am, and I'm ready for what's next. She returned my smile, a hint of something more in her eyes. And what is next, Nathan? I stood, moving around the desk to stand closer to her. Well, for starters, I was thinking dinner. With you. If you're interested, that is. Olivia's smile widened. I thought you'd never ask. As we left the office together, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement about the future. The past few months had been a whirlwind of pain, anger, and revenge. But now, standing on the precipice of something new, I felt truly alive. Vanessa and Carter were in my past. They had faced the consequences of their actions, and I had emerged victorious. But more than that, I had grown. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to trust again. As Olivia and I stepped into the elevator, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the polished doors. We looked good together. A team. Partners. You know, I said as the elevator descended, I have a feeling this is the start of something great. Olivia squeezed my hand. I couldn't agree more. The doors opened, and we stepped out into the bustling lobby. People nodded respectfully as we passed, a far cry from the whispers and pitying looks I'd endured in the aftermath of Vanessa's betrayal. Outside, the Dallas sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. As we walked to my car, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The chapter of betrayal and revenge was closed. A new one was beginning. And this time, I was writing the story on my own terms. As we drove off into the sunset, I couldn't help but smile. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I'd knocked it out of the park. And now? Now I was ready for extra innings. The end was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what came next. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.